Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe This Got Greenlit, a show where we discuss movies from our childhood, our nostalgia from watching them as kids, how they got made, and our experiences rewatching them as adults. I'm one of your hosts, Nick Warner, and herein lies the question, where is Matthew Pelton? Welcome everyone to the Where's Matthew Pelton special. Today in the studio, I am the only one here. This is a very strange feeling to be in the WECB studio with no one around. It's just me. I woke up this morning. My eyes were hurting. I had to get some coffee to wake myself up. It's been a long night and a long morning, but we are here to do another episode without anyone. So I want to first start the show by apologizing to anyone if I, stutter or if I, kind of drag the show on a little bit. Who knows how this show is actually going to go? I rely very, very heavily on my incredible co-host for his witty banter. So if this sucks, I apologize. But this is the third episode of the season where my incredible co-host Matthew Pelton is not here. And I will say this, every single time it's been a very incredibly valid reason. Today especially, he tried calling me last night. He sent me a voice memo and he was like, listen, I got a flat tire on the way back. He had all these plans. He canceled them because he was like, I got to come back for the Greenlit finale. I can't miss it. But unfortunately, he got a flat tire. He's kind of stranded. He's out in Connecticut right now. I think Connecticut. I could be wrong. He might be at the Cape. I'm not sure. But point being, he got stranded and the show needed to go on. So I am stepping in today to do our fail-safe episode. We spoke briefly at the beginning of the season when we first found out our time slot was 10 a.m. And we agreed that, okay, just in case Pelton doesn't show up, which we knew was going to happen eventually because this man likes to sleep in quite late into the day. I don't blame him. College life is tough. But we needed a fail-safe episode. We needed an episode where, I could come in, I could do the show without him, but obviously I can't cover a movie because we need the witty banter. It would be weird if I started going into production notes without the, gasps and the, oh my God, there's no way that happened of my co-host. So I created the Where's Matthew Pelton special because I realized, we started this show a little over a year ago. We're almost 50 episodes into the show. And we never fully explained why Matthew and I are the co-hosts. What is our backstory? Why did we start this show? We kind of explained it briefly, but I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of our friendship. I wanted to give a little bit of a backstory on our friendship, how we came to be, how this show got greenlit. And yeah, taking it from the top, I don't know how long this episode's going to be. If it's 20 minutes, it could go the full 55. We are going to see. But I wanted to give you, the audience, more of a background on your incredible hosts. So here we go. So Matthew and I met, as most friends do, in this industry, at this school, through other people. So it was our freshman year. I always get this confused because I always think it was sophomore year, but actually sophomore year was when we started living together. So freshman year, I was out and about walking around the common, and a friend of mine, texted me and was like, "Hey, come hang out. We're all hanging." It was a nice day. It was a spring day, spring of our freshman year. It was still like COVID times, so it was kind of that situation. So I went out. We started hanging, and I met Matthew. And now let me just say this. I knew immediately we were going to be super close because he was on his phone and he was playing like the iMessage, I think it was chess or something like that. He was playing some iMessage game or pool or something. And immediately, he was super high energy. He was like, "Oh my God, so nice to meet you. Here you go." He hands me his phone and he was like, "Help me. I need help. I need help in this chess game. I don't know what I'm doing." And I was like, oh, okay, nice to meet you too. And so I helped him out. He left, he went on a run or something like that. And then the next day, I got invited by him and, the group that we were with to go on a little adventure. We went out, we went to like this quarry, I think I'm saying that right. We went out to this little area. and we got dinner. It was a wonderful evening. And then like a week later, the whole friend group that I had just joined, we all got quarantined. And, everyone had COVID. It was just running rampant. It was crazy. Luckily, I didn't get it, but it really brought us all together. And yeah, so that's kind of where we started things. We just got really close really quickly. We, started off with very similar energies. Like we were very high energy. We had similar interests. We both loved movies. I mean, that's pretty natural at Emerson, but that's kind of where we started. So moving forward on to sophomore year, we lived together our first semester of sophomore year. It was great. We had a suite full of incredible people. They were gracious enough to bring me in because my freshman year roommate was transferring schools at that point. And they were like, oh yeah, we have an extra spot in our suite. Let's do it. And so I was like, oh, this is amazing. And so, that's kind of how we started on the, hanging out every day, working on projects. I eventually introduced him to AMC A-List, and now he's a huge, voice and advocate for the program. AMC A-List is one of the greatest things known to man, and I am so incredibly happy that it exists. But yeah, we started going to movies together. There are so many good memories from that semester. We saw the live action Clifford movie. That was insane. I think that was the semester that we saw the movie version of Dear Evan Hansen, which was crazy because we saw that with our other roommate, Jonah, past and future guest, Jonah Bowen. We love him very much. We saw that movie. It was the three of us, and there was no one else in the theater, naturally, for that film. And so Jonah and I, being pretty big fans of the show, we started singing all the music and everything. And Matthew, famously or not, doesn't love musical movies, and I understand why. You have all this tension build up, and right as you think you're about to get deeper into the plot, they break out into song. I'm pretty sure that's his reasoning. But like, oh man, it was such a fun time. It was such a horrible movie, but we had such a blast. And then by the end of our sophomore year, we were riding high. It was one of the best semesters I've had here at Emerson. And then we both took off and left. He went out to the Netherlands. I went to work for Disney for the first time. And we kind of just went our separate ways for a little while. Came back over the summer, obviously kept in touch. And then junior year, we were ready to go. We were going to live together again. And then I got the internship at The Tonight Show. So it was yet another semester. It was basically a full year where we didn't live together, really hang out a ton. Obviously, we kept in touch. We worked on some projects, which I'll get to in a minute. But that was kind of, the vibe. And then there was this whole situation that I'm not going to get into on air, but there was a big falling out in that friend group that I was talking about a little earlier. And he was really one of the only ones that stuck up for me, and I really appreciate him for that. There were others in there, but he was kind of the main one that was, a big defender of me because I left. I didn't do really anything. And it was a whole situation with the room that I was supposed to be in and coming back. That's a whole thing. But, he was the one who kind of stuck up for me, and we got even closer that semester because we lived in a suite where we were really the only ones that were hanging out. We used that semester to, go back to the movies, start on new projects, and start this show. That was almost a year ago, a little over a year ago, January of 2023. And then Greenlit was born. And I'm realizing now it is now 10:09 and I am halfway through. I am halfway through my notes. I'm realizing that conversation goes so much farther when there's two people, and doing a podcast on your own is very tough. So I'm using this episode, the Where's Matthew Pelton special, as a PSA for anyone that wants to start a podcast on their own. It's really hard unless you have a very detailed itinerary. But I have to admit, I wrote down all of these notes and created the Where's Matthew Pelton, but the actual itinerary, because we've had the idea for a minute. I think the beginning of the semester is when we came up with our little fail-safe episode. But I didn't really write anything down for it until last night at like midnight. And if you know the show, I wake up pretty early to come to the studio. And the show before us wasn't here. So we were like, I've been the only one here for like an hour and a half, just kind of hanging out, listening to music. Um, but like, yeah, we're coming up on the end. Not actually. I'm gonna try and make this go as long as I possibly can. Um, but yeah, so we've been creative partners basically since we first met, and we've created 4 short films together as a director and producer duo, and an upcoming series. So I'm gonna get a little bit into that right now. So we first started our sophomore year when we lived together. That beautiful, beautiful semester, first semester sophomore year, right before he went to the Netherlands and I went to Disney. We directed a short film called River Fork Community College. And now, before I continue, if you are listening to this, you're probably our friends or family, and you probably know all this. So I apologize, but for the rest of the audience and also for our kids in the future, I wanted to give a little backstory. So bear with me as we continue through this. So River Fork is a project that Pelton, came up with the ideas based on the show Community. And, we lived with Jonah, who is the star of the short. And we wanted to do some sort of comedy. He was having trouble getting into the film program here at Emerson. It was some weird transfer requirements that needed to be met. And he was like, hey, do you want to make this film with me so I can get into the film program? And I was like, dude, let's do it. Because up until that point, his first semester sophomore year, it was fall of 2021, and there wasn't a whole lot going on campus, so I hadn't done a whole lot of productions. I had, produced a few things. I'd shot a couple of my own things, but nothing too crazy, nothing that I really fully put on my resume. But we were like, what, let's do it. So we started off as, co-directors because neither of us really kind of knew what role we wanted to take. I think he was more set on directing. I was kind of more like, I like camera work, I like producing, I like directing. I'm not really sure. The only thing I knew is I didn't want to be a writer. My whole life, I've never wanted to write. And, as I've gone on through Emerson, I've kind of grown to love it and grown to appreciate writing. But it was never my strong suit. And that's kind of where we were. And luckily for me, and luckily for Matthew, we didn't really write a script for River Fork. We kind of we had the premises, we had like a detailed list of what we wanted to happen in the scene, but there was no dialogue written, which was kind of the big thing for us. Is kind of how we started. There was no dialogue. One of our friends was gracious enough to lend us his camera for the shoot, and him and I alternated, directing the cinematography for it. And Matthew, was the director, and I kind of helped produce, shoot, and sometimes also direct. It was kind of a weird situation where I was kind of doing a lot on that project to try and really just figure out what I liked and what I was strongest at. So we did it. Luckily, we got very, very good actors to come in and do some improvised stuff. And we put it together, and we finished our first short. It took a long time, and we ended up, one of my favorite memories is editing with him in the, I think it was the M-Chan editing suite. But it was like a little tiny room that anyone could go into that no longer exists, I'm pretty sure. They redid that floor in one of the buildings here. And, we edited on this little Mac, and there were 3 Macs in there, and some days there were other people in the room. Which now that we edit in like the actual editing suites at Emerson, it blows my mind that we ever did that, because there were just people just like listening to our nonsense as we were editing. It was crazy because we go nuts when we edit. So that's the first short. We both took off to different places, and then I think he workshopped our next short film at the castle. I'm pretty sure he wrote the script while there, or maybe he just presented it there. I have vague memories of him saying that. Anywho, we did our next short called A Triptych About Water over the summer between Disney and The Tonight Show. So between the second semester of our sophomore year and the first semester of our junior year. And that was a super fun process. It was, it's 3 parts. Every part, as different as they are connected through their themes and their, there's water in all of them. It's very fun. I produced that mainly because I wasn't really around a whole lot. I was in Florida until June, and then I was home. I was in Pennsylvania a lot that summer. And then in the fall, I was basically absent because I was in New York like every single day. I was, waking up at 4 a.m, getting to bed at 10 p.m. And that was kind of my life for those 3 months. But that summer, I had the opportunity to produce, and that was really my first main kind of, opportunity to just strictly produce and not do anything else. And I really enjoyed it. It was a super fun time. I'm proud of that project, and that will, I'm trying to think about the editing process for that, because to my knowledge, Pelton and I like to edit together. This kind of, it started with River Fork, and we were piecing things together, and then we continued it into Triptych, and I'm fairly certain we edited that. I think it was either remotely, and he just sent me footage, or we did it at school when I came back. But no, that doesn't make sense because I was at the premiere. I don't remember, but point being, that was our second film. It was a good time. But then we moved on to Psychedelic Toad. And now this is kind of a more complicated process, because this is the first time that not only were we both editing, not only was I producing and he was directing, but I was also DPing. I was doing the cinematography for the film. And this is kind of the first time that we did this, and it continued on with our future projects, which I'll get to in a second. But we started this process, I believe, right when this show started. We tried to do it in the spring of our junior year, so a year ago. And it just didn't work out. There was a lot of, we couldn't find locations, and the timing was off. We couldn't find crew. And it was just, we had, the script. We had it very fleshed out with the equipment that we wanted. And it all kind of fell apart. And we were like, you know what? Rather than trying to get this done in March and edit it by the end of the semester, let's reevaluate. Let's shoot it over the summer, and let's go from there. So we took a step back. We gave ourselves some more time. And then I got into the alumni program at Disney. So I was like, hey, I'm going to be at the Evvies, and then I have like 3 days, and then I leave for Florida. So we're like, dude, you have to, I had to be there to shoot it because I was kind of set. I did the shot list already. We just worked really well as that, duo that is, directs, produces, DPs, and edits all kind of in 2 people. And so I was like, okay, you know what? We can fit it in. We had 3 shooting days. And so, dude, it was one of the most fun processes ever, because we got the equipment, which was a nightmare to begin with, because we didn't have the EDC, which is the Equipment Distribution Center at Emerson. So we had to order it from a website, like a third-party website. And a lot of it came in, and a lot of it came in not fully there. It was, missing batteries, missing plugs that were important, missing cables, whatever it may be. We got lucky that we even got the equipment to work by the end. But so I got my hands on a camera for the first time in a while. I was super happy with it. We had such a good team that time around. And yeah, we shot in Connecticut, which was awesome because we're both from Connecticut, and we were lucky with some of the locations. And the coolest part is all the equipment it lived at Pelton's house, and so did I. I was there for 3 or 4 days, and we hauled all the equipment to set. We hauled all the equipment home. We started dumping footage. It was basically nonstop Psychedelic Toad the whole time. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned that. The name of the film is Please Don't Lick the Psychedelic Toad. The names for Pelton's films get crazier and crazier, but I love them so much. So we dumped the footage, and we continued on, and it was just such a fun week or a couple days, because I knew I was going to Disney. We had just, finished school. We had won the Evie for this show, and man, it was just such a fun couple days. It was beautiful weather. I mean, couldn't have asked for a better time. And then I went to Disney again, and then came back for, last semester. And then we move on to Your Mama's Pie, which we shot last semester. And luckily we got lucky because we got to use the EDC equipment. But it was one of those things where the whole movie is about students that sit around a campfire and chat away. And that was it. And it was a super simple concept. We were like, okay, we're going to make it less, complicated than Psychedelic Toad so that we can just get it done. One location, maybe two, we're chilling. And what we didn't realize, excuse me, what we didn't realize is that the ideal location for this was not in Boston. It was not in Connecticut. It was in New York. It was at Pelton's old boarding school where he went to high school. So it was super cool for him to get to shoot there. But oh my God, what a process. We thought it was going to be super simple. We were trying to avoid the Psychedelic Toad situation. And we mostly did. We gave ourselves a month to film, or to do pre-production, which was quite stressful looking back. But we got it done. We got an amazing crew that we've worked with on other projects going forward, and I hope to continue to work with that team. But man, it was, if Celsius and, coffee didn't exist, excuse me, oh my goodness, I'm dying over here. I don't know if we would have made it to set, because we were going to set, super late at night, and we had a lot to film, and we only had the weekend because we were in the middle of classes. So we had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or yeah, something like that. And then we came home Monday, and, we got the whole crew out to Connecticut. Everyone stayed at my place and Pelton's place, and then we all kind of shuttled in from there. We all took separate cars and all this stuff. But we started filming at like 7, 8 o'clock. And we went and sometimes until like, 12, 1, 2. And then we wouldn't get home until super late. So it was a rough process. It was kind of, hang out during the day, catch up on your sleep, and then go shoot and then come home. And the unfortunate thing is it was fall, so it was raining. And it's kind of meant to take place during the spring when they're like leaving school. So it was kind of a rough first day, but then the second and third day were super fun. We had such a good time. But man, we thought we were really simplifying things there. And again, for the most part we did, but there were some things where we were like, I don't think a film is ever going to be simple, especially producing, DPing, and editing, because it's a whole thing. But that's coming out soon, so I'm super excited about that. And then we move on to today, where we just wrapped on Tales from River Fork Community College. Now, if you were paying attention, River Fork Community College was a short film that we made our sophomore year. So you might be asking, Nick, what is Tales from River Fork Community College? Well, let me tell you. We had 5 incredible writers from the comedic arts major here at Emerson write us 5 incredibly wonderful scripts, bringing back the River Fork Community College vibe. Pelton and I were like, hey, what do we want to end on? We thought it was going to be Mama's Pie. And then we had a few other ideas that I think we're still going to try and make in the future. But we were like, well, we have these scripts. Why don't we end with River Fork? Bring it back, full circle. Let's do it. And so we read the scripts and we were like, man, this is going to be a lot. I don't know if this is even possible. It's basically 5 short films. It's 5 episodes of a miniseries in 1 semester. And pre-production basically didn't start until we got here. So remember when I said we had this super simple 1 location film and we basically had like a month to do pre-production? It was essentially the same thing. We had a little more time for pre-production, but essentially the same thing for this semester. We had, a month or 2. Basically 2 months, but it was 5 short films and a ton of locations, a ton of characters, a ton of extras, a ton of costumes, because it's comedy. So it's a lot of one-off bits in 1 location with a bunch of props, and then you move on. But it's just so much to handle as a producer. So we shot everything with Jonah, our dean, last semester because he was taking off to LA this semester. And then this semester, we started our pre-production. Like I said, we had 2 months. And like a month in, I sat Pelton down and we had a very, very, serious conversation of, is this even physically possible? Because this is maybe the busiest semester of my Emerson career alone. And obviously, Pelton has a lot going on. He was applying to grad school. Luckily, he got in. Very proud of him. But man, it was a super busy semester. We were trying to accomplish something that people were calling us crazy basically for it. And, we had this conversation. We were like, well, the only way that this is possible is to bring on other producers because I don't basically I was like, I don't know if I could do this on my own, by ourselves, just the two of us. And so luckily we had I have two very close friends, Andy and Lily, both past Greenlit guests. I love them very much. They helped produce Alone Again. I was on that team with them. They were both amazing. And I was like, listen, let me ask these guys. They don't have to do a lot. They just need help with wrangling people and locations. That's two main things. And we brought them in. They both said yes. And they saved the project. Hands down, they were the reason that the project got made. And so we did it. I DP'd, Pelton directed, I produced, and we were both in the process of editing. We are almost done with a rough cut of episode 1. And man, it came together, but I was really, really nervous about that project. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm happy to report that it's all done. Everything's wrapped. We're in the process of editing, and hopefully by the fall, those basically 5 films will come out. The miniseries will come out. And that's it. That's our projects that we worked on together at Emerson. Now, luckily, we're still very close friends. We have this show. We're friends outside of the show. And, Pelton's going to grad school. I'm kind of moving on to my own thing in Florida, working for Universal, which I'm very excited about. But the cool part about, it's unfortunate because the pandemic happened, but the cool part about the pandemic is that Zoom now exists. So not only can we continue the show, but we can continue working on projects together with me as a remote producer. And then theoretically, if we're, filming a couple days on a weekend or over a week or something, I can fly out to LA and I can DP, or I can just help produce and we can still work on stuff together, which is amazing. So that kind of brings us to today, where we host this radio show and we're working on projects in the future, hopefully. But I want to just kind of go back to the very beginning of this show because we explained it, but I want to bring it up again. How the show got greenlit, funny enough. We tried to make this show for 2 years. We wanted to do it in 2021. Pelton and I were like, man, we have a really good, back and forth. We have good chemistry and our conversations can go far over an hour, as you've probably heard in the summer sessions. But we wanted to make something that was uniquely ours. We wanted to do the radio show. We thought it would be really cool to have something for our kids, something for the future that we can go back on and be like, man, this is such a time capsule. So that's why I try and bring up things that are very in the moment, like things that are happening now, culturally relevant, like today, so that in 10, 20 years from now, I can look back on this and be like, man, that was so cool that's what my college experience was like. You could see it over the course of, the end of my junior year to the end of my senior year, kind of how I've grown as a podcaster, which is such a weird thing to say. But I kept leaving campus, obviously with Disney and The Tonight Show, and we couldn't shake the fact that we didn't really have an original idea for a show, and that we really just wanted to be the next Blank Check. Now, Blank Check, as we've mentioned probably a dozen times, is a show hosted by David Sims and Griffin Newman, which we love. Shout out to them. They were our original inspiration for the show. They go on very, very, very long tangents about movies, and they do directors, like director series. So they cover all the movies that directors have made, kind of showing the progression of those directors over time. Now, we wanted to do something similar, and then we were like, but that's not original. That's not our idea. So we sat on it for a while. I left for Disney. Pelton left for the Netherlands. He came back. I did not. I went to, New York. And then eventually when I came back, I sat him down and I was like, listen, we need a niche. We need something that could be uniquely ours. And so I said, what if we, did movies from our childhood? It hits a niche audience, but it's big enough that we could have, a good amount of people relating to what we're talking about. He was like, oh my God, that's a great idea. So we went in, we pitched I Can't Believe This Got Greenlit. We wanted to do a show, as many of you would know, where we talk about movies from our childhood. How they got made, our experiences rewatching them as adults. I forget the intro, but that's what it was. That's what we wanted to do. So that's kind of how we got greenlit. We pitched it. It's a unique concept. We hope to continue it in the future. And that's kind of it. We're now 30 minutes in, and I'm surprised that I even made it this far. And I'm probably going to listen back to this and be like, that was a hot, steamy pile of doo-doo, but it's okay. I'm doing this mainly for myself. So before we end the show, I want to take a moment just to really, really emphasize how much I love my co-host. This guy, oh my God, love him so much. So my favorite memory with this dude, it actually is a series of memories. My favorite memories with Pelton, aside from doing the show, aside from going to the movies and making fun of really crappy movies, that's such a fun time, is editing. Like, I love editing the show with him. Not the show. I love editing our short films with him. I edit the show. Yeah, man, it's such a fun time. Like, we go through, you know, all the as you do when you edit. You go through all the takes. You laugh at it. You make fun of yourselves. Like, well, why did we do this? How did this happen? Like, this is crazy. And we just have some of the best times. We go off on random tangents about, you know, I've gone off. I think when we were editing Psychedelic Toad, I went off on like a 20-minute tangent about Robert Earl, the founder of Earl of Sandwich and Planet Hollywood. Oh my God, that was a crazy time. But it's just so fun, especially because of the nature of the films that we've edited, that we've made, really. It's just so fun looking back at the performances and the content that we create. So it's those are some of my favorite memories. And now, as sad as it is to say this, because we're only 30 minutes in, and I really like doing the 55-minute shows. Hopefully this was bearable enough to get through. I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that in a past episode, I mentioned that I would write a song for Mr. Matthew Pelton. And while I unfortunately have a singing voice that would get me arrested on air, I wanted to write something special as a thank you for an incredible season 3 and for being such an incredible co-host, even though he's not here today. So in Greenlit fashion, here's an extended version of the Dr. Seuss intro I did on our Grinch episode about Matthew Pelton. I hope you enjoy. Here we go. From Megamind to Chicken Run, we had such a blast, talking about movies from our distant past. I was so excited to recap Season 3 until a tire blew up and left me without my fellow Evie nominee. After getting screwed over by the station that signed us, we made damn sure that they heard us fret and fuss. When we finally gave in to their treason, I knew for sure we would have a good season. Although there were days where it was just the guest and I, you made up for it by making me laugh till I cry. From the bottom of my heart, I want to say, I'm so proud of the show in every way. I don't mean to brag or even boast, but I, my friend, have the best damn co-host. Guys, that has been the Where's Matthew Pelton special. I hope you enjoyed. I'm so sorry for anyone listening live that was really excited to hear the season 3 finale. That is coming hopefully soon. That will be the next episode. I promise you that. I don't know how long it's going to take to make because it's a crazy end of the semester. Pelton's graduating. I was supposed to graduate, but that's a whole different thing. Yes, thank you all for listening. Now, I said it last week. I'll say it again. Tune in next week, or possibly in a few days. I don't know what the release schedule is going to look like with the Where's Matthew Pelton special. But tune in to the next episode where we're going to cover the best and the worst from season 3. And yes, we will see you then. Bye.